Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos, Nigeria. Here's what's coming up on the program in the next half hour. 6 people killed after Palestinian gunmen opened fire at a Jerusalem bus stop. While hundreds rally in Jerusalem urging the release of Israeli hostages. Plus, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer clears out Home Office in sweeping reshuffle after Deputy Prime Minister Rayner's exit. Let's begin the world today. 6 people have been killed and 8 others injured after Palestinian gunmen opened fire at a bus stop in Jerusalem. Israeli police say 2 attackers drove to the Ramot junction in the north of the city and fired shots into a crowd before being shot dead by an off-duty soldier and a civilian. Israeli media identified the dead as 5 men aged between 25 and 79, as well as a 6-year-old woman. Hospitals reported that 2 of the injured remain in serious condition. No group has claimed responsibility, although Hamas praised the attack. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who visited the scene, said Israel is in an intense war against terrorism and vowed to find anyone who helped the attackers. Israeli soldiers have now encircled villages near Ramallah in the occupied West Bank to thwart further attacks.
בכמה חזיתות, יש לנו כמובן הצלחות אדירות נגד משטרי הטרור, נגד ארגוני הטרור, אבל המלחמה נמשכת, גם ברצועת עזה, שבה נחריב את החמאס, כפי שהבטחנו ונשחרר את חטופים.
Well, Prime Minister Keir Starmer in the United States has reshuffled his government following the resignation of former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner. Minister Dame Angela Eagle and Dame Diana Johnson have been moved to other departments, joining former Home Secretary Yvette Cooper, who was shifted to the Foreign Office on Friday. Former Foreign Secretary David Lammy has been appointed Deputy Prime Minister. The changes follow Ms. Rayner's exit after being found in breach of the ministerial code over tax payments. In her resignation letter, she said she takes full responsibility. The Prime Minister responded that he was very sorry that her time in office had ended this way. Staring down his most turbulent week in office, the Prime Minister is seeking to reassert authority and redraw his top team. Sarah Jones and Alex Norris have been brought into the Home Office, joining new Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood. Dover MP Mike Tapp, known for his tough stance on illegal migration, has also been appointed a minister, signaling Sir Keir Starmer's focus on stopping small boat crossings. Elsewhere, Anna Turley has been promoted to minister without portfolio in the Cabinet Office, taken over as Labour Party chair. The reshuffle also claimed Farming Minister Daniel Zeitner, while Environment Secretary Steve Reed was moved to Housing, a shift seen as an attempt to reset tense relations with Britain's farmers. With so many moves across the government, questions are being raised about the Prime Minister's strategy and, of course, whether the shake-up can restore confidence in his leadership. Let's bring in geopolitical analyst Nathaniel Ogunniyi to shed more light in this issue. He joins us from London. Nathaniel, pleasure having you on the program today.
Good afternoon.
So after such a sweeping reshuffle, does this look like a government in control or one firefighting after a crisis?
I think the government is very much reacting to a crisis at the moment. So on Friday, you had Angela Rayner's resignation, which, as you know, was caused by the underpayment of some property taxes. She served as Deputy Prime Minister, but she also served as Housing Secretary and Deputy Leader of the Labour Party. So she's now resigned from all 3 roles. The Prime Minister has moved to appoint David Lammy as Deputy Prime Minister. He's moved to appoint Steve Reed as Housing Secretary, but there is 1 vacancy remaining, which is as Deputy Leader of the Labour Party. And that deputy leader position is elected by the party. And so the Prime Minister can't just make an appointment there. The party now has to go through an internal process to elect that leader, and that is causing some difficulties for Sir Keir Starmer because the deputy leader position is often seen as a springboard into the leadership. You see that Keir Starmer, 1 year into office after winning the election in July 2024, has not made all the progress that the party would like to. You see that they have had the sharpest fall on the polls in record. So in terms of popularity, both the Prime Minister and the party are now incredibly unpopular. They're now second or sometimes third in poll ratings. And so the challenge for him is now the party will elect a deputy leader, but that deputy leader may soon be looking for Keir Starmer's job.
Right. Do you think David Lammy is good for this position?
Yeah, so David Lammy's been appointed now as Deputy Prime Minister as well as Justice Secretary. I think he will try to fill a vacuum left behind by Angela Rayner in terms of talking to the left wing of the party. So Angela Rayner came very much from the left wing of the party, while Keir Starmer came from the more centrist or more right wing part of the Labour Party. And so in this appointment, Sir Keir Starmer has tried to put David Lammy into a position where he will be able to lead the party's outreach to left-wing voters, but as well as to left-wing MPs. I think David Lammy has big steps to fill in that regard.
Right. And what do you think of the other appointments in this, big reshuffle and what it tells us about Keir Starmer's priorities?
So I think it tells us a lot about the ministers that he thinks are doing well and the ministers that he thinks are not doing so well. So you see Yvette Cooper, for instance, being moved from the Home Office into the role of Foreign Secretary, which was previously David Lammy's job. She's been replaced by Shabana Mahmood, who the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, as well as his senior advisors, such as his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, think is a very good operator. So they see Shabana Mahmood as a tough operator, able to get to grips with the department and push through what may be seen as controversial policy measures. And so that's why she's been moved to the Home Office. You look elsewhere across government, there is a new business secretary, for instance. So the new business secretary is Peter Kyle, who used to be in charge of tech and science policy. He made a lot of good relationships with tech businesses in that role. And so it was seen as a natural role for him to move into business. But one high profile role that has not seen any changes is the Chancellor. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has stayed in post despite lots of speculation about her. You may remember she has faced a lot of difficulties and she will be presenting her autumn budget in November of this year.
And how much political damage has Mr. Rayner's resignation really done to the Starmer's government, especially the reasons why she left?
So I think the resignation is really unhelpful from that perspective, because for a long time, Labour made a virtue out of being different to the Conservative Party. And so for them, the messaging was all about the higher standards that they have in terms of elected office, that they would avoid scandal, that they would avoid difficulties like this. Unfortunately, now that's been proven to be untrue. So you've had Angela Rayner here now resigning because of her stamp duty non-payment. You've got earlier in the year the anti-corruption minister who had to resign because she was involved in a corruption probe abroad. You then had the transport secretary, so one of the most senior ministers in the government, then being asked to resign last year over a conviction for fraud. And so while the Labour Party came into office promising higher standards, it's now seemed that they have found it quite difficult to deliver on that.
And, do you think these changes strengthen Prime Minister Starmer's cabinet, considering the loss of experienced figures like Yvette Cooper at the Home Office?
Yeah, so I think the Prime Minister has lost a few experienced figures and will be trying to strengthen his hand, not just in cabinet, but in terms of relationships with his party. Of course, it is a vote of his own MPs, his backbench MPs, that could lead to his eventual removal. And so, by promoting some of those MPs into junior ministerial roles and then promoting other junior ministers into cabinet level roles, he's hoped to try and keep some of those influential backbench MPs happy. He's also tried to promote a number of recently elected MPs, so MPs that were elected for the first time in 2024, but he's tried to promote a number of them into junior ministerial roles, hoping that that will bring him or do him some favors with them.
Right, Nathaniel, thanks again.
Thank you.
Let's get back to some of our top stories. Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Saar has announced a ban on Spanish ministers entering Israel amid a diplomatic row over European support for Palestinian statehood. Mr. Saar accused France and Spain of rewarding terrorism and undermining peace just hours after the deadly shooting in Jerusalem. He said Israel remains open to a U.S.-brokered peace deal, claiming U.S. President Donald Trump's plan could end the war in Gaza immediately. Mr. Saar criticized Spain's government for imposing new sanctions, including a permanent arms embargo and a ban on fuel shipments to the Israeli military. He insists Israel will not deal with Spanish officials, describing Madrid's position as anti-Semitic and anti-Israel.
We completely reject the current attempts to force Israel to accept a Palestinian terrorist state in the heart of our tiny land. It will not happen. Those terrorists came this morning from the PA territories. And the establishment of such a terrorist state would have one goal only: the elimination of the State of Israel. It must be made clear: the Palestinian Authority has never disconnected from its support for terror. It rewards and encourages terror with its pay-for-slay policy for terrorists and their families. As much as the crime is more severe, they are paying more. It continues its incitement against Israel and Jews in schools, textbooks, mosques, and their media. Based on its actions, the PA does not deserve a state. U.S. Secretary Rubio recently made it clear: the PA and PLO are not meeting their most basic obligations from the Oslo Accords over 30 years ago. There can be no reliable peace process without disconnecting from the actors of terror. The initiative led by France disconnects the issue of statehood, one of the final status issues, from peace. And that's a grave mistake. It's an attempt to unilaterally grant the Palestinians a state without a historical compromise, without them meeting and fulfilling the obligations they already made in the midterm agreements. Can end tomorrow. President Trump said it clearly yesterday. Israel said yes to his proposal. We are ready to accept a full deal that would end the war based on the cabinet decision. But there are European leaders that call on us to end the war now, practically unconditionally. Yet, at the same time, they support our position regarding the conditions to end the war, that Hamas must disarm and not play a role in the future of Gaza. And so I ask, how do these European leaders propose to resolve this contradiction? By politely asking Hamas to leave? I have not heard one practical suggestion from them.
Meanwhile, Denmark's Foreign Minister Lars Rasmussen has called on Israel to end its military offensive in Gaza. Speaking at a press conference in Jerusalem alongside his Israeli counterpart Gideon Saar, Mr. Rasmussen said Denmark was ready to help treat Palestinian patients in East Jerusalem or the West Bank. He reiterated that Copenhagen is not yet ready to recognize a Palestinian state, warning that it will have to be disarmed, democratic, and recognize Israel's sovereignty. Mr. Rasmussen added that Denmark would never recognize a state governed by Hamas or another group it considers a terrorist organization.
We do not agree on any major breakthrough. You are not open for giving these patients access or to allow them to go from Gaza to the West Bank. We strongly believe that peace, long-lasting peace in this region must be based on a sovereign Israel and a Palestinian state living peacefully together. And I'm not naive. I know this is extremely difficult, but it's something we should work hard to achieve. We are not ready yet to recognize, but our position is that we cannot allow anyone to have a de facto veto over the Danish position. We have made it clear that we will not give either Israel or other a veto on the Danish position. It doesn't change the fact that we will never, in reality, recognize a Palestinian state which is ruled by Hamas or any other terrorist organization, and therefore it comes with a lot of preconditions. A disarmed Palestinian state, recognizing Israel, transparency, democracy. You can't run for election if you don't recognize the sovereignty of Israel, etc. That is our position.
I urge Denmark not to do it because I think it is totally not constructive. Secretary Rubio told also during the last days, states are not created that way. Those states that support statehood for the Palestinians now ignores the most important facts that demonstrate that the PA does not deserve, according to its according to what they do, they don't deserve a state. And I will mainly put three things. First of all, they said they will fight against terror in the Oslo agreements. They have never done that.
A father who had been on the run with his 3 children in New Zealand's wilderness for nearly 4 years has been shot dead by police. Tom Phillips, who disappeared with his children in late 2021, had evaded capture despite a nationwide search and multiple sightings over the years. The case has remained one of New Zealand's most enduring mysteries. Authorities say Phillips was killed in a shootout early this morning in which a police officer was seriously injured. Police responded to a reported robbery in the small town of Piopio, where Phillips and one of his children were spotted riding a quad bike. After a fierce chase, road spikes stopped the vehicle and gunfire erupted when officers eventually approached. An Australian woman has been jailed for life with no chance of release for at least 33 years for killing 3 relatives and attempting to murder another with a toxic mushroom meal. 50-year-old Erin Patterson was sentenced for poisoning her in-laws, Don and Gail Patterson, and Gail's sister, Heather Wilkinson, with a beef Wellington laced with death cap mushrooms in 2023. Heather's husband, a local pastor, Ian Wilkinson, survived after spending weeks in a coma but continues to suffer health issues. Judges described Mrs. Patterson's actions as the worst category of offending, imposing 3 consecutive life sentences and 25 years for attempted murder. Her estranged husband, Simon Patterson, had been invited to the lunch but did not attend, later telling police he believed she had been trying to poison him for years. And as world marks World Literacy Day, the Nigerian Union of Journalists says that the significance of the occasion must not be lost on government and the federal and subnational units, calling for redoubling of efforts to ensure Nigerians get proper education. According to a new annual Global Education Monitoring Report by UNESCO, there's a clear connection between illiteracy and countries in extreme poverty in Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa. This latest report from UNESCO on the literacy rate in Africa, especially Nigeria, is deeply troubling as the continent witnessed an increase in the number of out-of-school children in Africa by 12 million. Nigeria's out-of-school population accounts for a whopping 15% of the global total. In the state of Mexico, the municipality of Ecatepec de Morales has broken a Guinness World Record for the largest number of people collecting rubbish at the same time. More than 148,000 residents took part in the mass cleanup, surpassing the previous record of 146,700 held by Tokyo. Mayor Azukena Kos received the official certificate, with environmental groups calling the event a powerful reminder of the need to protect the planet. From the early hours, thousands of volunteers gathered at 78 locations to clear streets and public spaces, with students, teachers, and families taking part. Guinness officials describe the record as officially amazing. And that's our program this evening. Thank you for watching. I'm Jackie Rogers.